Good morning, America. President Trump set to unveil his new tax plan calling for sweeping cuts, hoping to deliver on a big campaign promise.
Taxes are coming way down for individuals.
Plus, the new anti-missile system deployed overnight on a golf course in South Korea ahead of schedule as tensions rise between the White House and North Korea.
Record rain flooding North Carolina, forcing evacuations. Cars abandoned in nearly a foot of water. Now New England is on alert, and the South bracing for a blast of severe storms. Real-life drama. Former Bachelor Chris Soules arrested.
Absolutely.
Charged with leaving the scene of a deadly accident. His neighbor killed on a tractor. Alcohol reportedly found at the scene. This incident, not his first run-in with the law. What he's now saying about the devastating crash.
And a circus act on the baseball field. This Blue Jay star turning into an acrobat, racing to the plate, leaping, flipping, and rolling over a Cardinals catcher to score a crucial run. The manager saying you won't see anything like this in 100 years.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Don't be scared, Michael. Don't be scared. Good morning, America. Let's take another look at that moment again at the plate. Chris Coughlin, yes, but there, Michael, you think maybe?
I think he hit the catcher, and the catcher had possessed the ball. I don't know. Thought he was out.
Well, he was safe, and they won the game.
A little debate over here before we came on the air.
But there's some other baseball news out there about baseball's new odd couple. Look at these two, Derek Jeter and Jeb Bush. They could be closing in on purchasing the Miami Marlins, and Jeter could become like the new boss.
We are tracking a lot of big stories this Wednesday morning. Whole Senate coming to the White House this afternoon for a briefing on North Korea with President Trump's national security team. And with the deadline for a government shutdown just 2 days away, the president is backing off his demands to fund now. No deal yet to keep the government open. But the president is set to unveil parts of his tax plan today. He says this may be the biggest tax cut ever.
Right to our senior White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega, for more on what the president's plan includes. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hey guys, good morning to you. White House officials tell me what will be released today is a draft, a blueprint, so to speak. There hasn't been major tax reform in this country since Ronald Reagan was here in the White House. But with that clock ticking, President Trump is now hoping to add this tax reform proposal to his list of accomplishments before he hits that 100 days. As the government shutdown looms and that 100-day mark is just days away, this morning the pressure is on for President Trump to deliver, hoping to make good on a signature campaign promise.
There will be a major tax reduction.
We're simplifying the tax code. It's going to be so beautiful. It's going to be so dynamic.
Taxes are coming way down for individuals.
Today, the president is expected to unveil what he says could be the biggest tax cut we've ever had. His Treasury Secretary and a top economic advisor on Capitol Hill trying to drum up support.
We're all committed to getting tax reform done.
Sources tell ABC News the tax reform plan will cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 15%, include a tax break for child care expenses, and cut individual tax rates.
We are going to keep our promises, all of the promises that we made. We are going to massively reduce your taxes.
The opposition already in overdrive. One estimate says an early version of the president's plan could cost as much as $6 trillion in lost revenue over 10 years. But later today, a more immediate concern front and center, North Korea. Every Republican and Democratic senator invited on a field trip of sorts. They will head to the White House, the top members of the president's national security team, briefing them on the growing threat from Pyongyang. And President Trump, we're told, is expected to make an appearance, a brief one, at that meeting later this afternoon. We're told it was his idea to invite the senators here to the White House because, George, he wanted to show off the property.
A lot going on at the White House today. Cecilia, thank you. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, John Call, for more on this, starting with the tax plan. John, the president apparently also proposing a major change that could cut his own personal tax bill by more than half.
Yeah, Cecilia mentioned the corporate tax rate under this plan would go from 35% to 15%. And reportedly, this would also apply to companies that file their taxes through the personal tax code. George, that would mean companies like the Trump Organization. So it's quite possible this would mean a windfall for Donald Trump personally and his family. Of course, we won't know for sure because he hasn't released his tax returns.
Right, but instead of paying the personal income tax 39.6%, he would pay 15% under his own plan. Meantime, you've got these negotiations going on for the government shutdown. The president clearly backing off any demand to fund the border wall right now.
Yeah, and it looks like he is going to get increased money for border security. He is going to get a big increase for military spending, and the drama has dissipated. This really counts as an achievement, given the recent drama we've had over spending bills in Washington. A victory for the president, no real threat of a shutdown, and he gets many of his priorities funded.
Many, but not the wall. Meantime, on sanctuary cities, the president has another setback in the courts, the Ninth Circuit Court, saying that the Justice Department cannot punish sanctuary cities by withholding federal funds.
Yeah, and this is another big setback in the courts for the president's agenda. Remember, the travel ban EO executive order was knocked down. This knocked down. The president tweeting this morning that he will see the Ninth Circuit in the Supreme Court taking this battle all the way up. There is no doubt that we will see a big battle at the Supreme Court over the president's priorities, one in which Neil Gorsuch could be the key vote.
John McCall, thanks very much.
And George, now to Wall Street. The market reacting favorably ahead of President Trump's tax plan reveal. The Dow Jones enjoying its best two-day stretch since November, closing up more than 230 points on Tuesday, and NASDAQ also rallying. Our chief economics correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, has those details for us. Good morning, Rebecca.
And good morning to you, Robin. Wall Street has been laser focused on what's going on in Washington, particularly this tax proposal set to be released today. If that corporate tax rate comes down to 15%, the companies that have their stocks listed here at the New York Stock Exchange stand to have a great deal of savings, some of them upwards of billions of dollars in tax savings in a given year. There's also that focus now on corporate earnings, what we've been hearing from corporate America and their report card. In particular, technology companies have really been driving the momentum in this rally. If you look at it, a handful of stocks, just 5 of them, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and Alphabet, the parent company of Google, have driven 40% of the gains so far this year. And one reason for that, Robin, is that they win whether or not Washington passes these proposals.
That's something to keep in mind. So what are investors keeping an eye on, Rebecca, going forward?
The key here is that there is a big difference between a proposal and a done deal on taxes. Wall Street is very much aware of that because of what we saw happen with the health care bill earlier last month. Robin?
All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Robin. Now to that breaking news overnight. Tensions rising with North Korea as the U.S. deployed key parts of a missile defense system into place on a golf course in South Korea. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz here with the latest. And Martha, this missile system was deployed ahead of schedule.
It was, George. It will take several months to finally get it in place and get it operational. But this is a very sophisticated system. The Chinese don't want that system there because they are basically afraid with those sophisticated radars that the U.S. will be spying on China. But this is an anti-missile defense system to protect from North Korea. They put it about 155 miles south of Seoul. I saw a lot of those anti-missile defense systems when I was over there recently. The Patriot missile system, that was at Osan Air Base. This is south of Seoul.
They want to send a message right there. Meantime, another incident revealed overnight with an Iranian ship.
A small Iranian boat against a big American destroyer. This was in the Persian Gulf. This happens fairly frequently, but more unprofessional behavior, and the U.S. ship had to fire flares to get that small boat to back off. Happened about 35 times last year. It's happened about 7 times this year. And President Trump has already put out a warning in the past that these small boats should stay away.
Right, and it happened Monday. We just learned about it last night. Martha Raddatz, thanks very much.
Okay, George, now to new concerns that former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn may have broken the law. Both the top Democrat and Republicans say Flynn failed to disclose business dealings with Russia. And according to a new ABC News Washington Post poll, 56% of Americans think Russia tried to influence the election. 39% think the Trump campaign intentionally tried to assist the effort. Our congressional correspondent Mary Bruce has more from Capitol Hill. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. Well, the president's first national security advisor this morning could be on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars and potentially facing jail time after lawmakers here say he failed to properly disclose his business dealings abroad. They've already fired him, but this morning the White House still can't escape the controversy surrounding Michael Flynn. Right now, the big question, did he break the law?
That would be a question for him and a law enforcement agency, whether or not he filled. I don't know what he filled out and what he did or did not do.
Over 2 years, the retired lieutenant general received hundreds of thousands of dollars from foreign governments. In 2015, receiving $45,000 for appearing at this event in Moscow. Seen here shaking hands with Russian President Putin. And now the top Republican and Democrat on the House Oversight Committee say Flynn failed to properly disclose these business ties.
As a former military officer, you simply cannot take money from Russia, Turkey, or anybody else. And it appears as if he did take that money. It was inappropriate, and there are repercussions for the violation of law.
It's an omission that could cost him up to 5 years in prison. So you think he broke the law?
I see nothing in those records that would lead me to believe that he actually complied with the law, because he needed to do something proactively, and he didn't.
After just 24 days as National Security Advisor, Flynn was fired for lying to the vice president about his conversations with the Russian ambassador.
Mike Flynn is a fine person, and I asked for his resignation.
Now lawmakers want to see additional documents related to his hiring and firing, but the White House isn't willing to hand them over.
To ask for every call or contact that a national security advisor made is pretty outlandish, if you will.
Now, Flynn's lawyer says he did brief the Defense Department extensively on that 2015 trip to Russia, but he's not commenting specifically on the claims that he may have broken the law. So could Flynn face charges? Well, lawmakers say that decision is now up to the military. George.
Well, let's talk to Dan Abrams about that. Thank you, Mayor, our chief legal analyst. Actually, 3 different legal issues right here in 3 different venues. Number one, this reporting requirement and not reporting the various people he was working for.
Well, first of all, that's with regard to getting security clearance, right? When you get security clearance, you're specifically required to answer certain questions. And willful and knowing concealment of information, like getting these kinds of payments, could be considered a crime. That's the most likely issue, and I think that's the one most people are talking about now.
And then the second one, we've heard a lot about the emoluments clause, whether it may apply to a president, and apparently it also applies to retired generals.
That's right. A former military officer can't receive payments from a foreign government without getting congressional consent. The question here would be, for example, one of the allegations is with regard to the television station Russia Today. Is that a foreign government? That would be the legal question involved there. So that's issue number 2. Is number 1 is concealment, potentially, of the information when getting security clearance. Number 2 is, did he violate the law as a former military officer getting payments from a foreign government?
Third one, and this is probably a long shot, a violation of the so-called Logan Act. Explain what that is.
This is one we've talked about for a while. This is one that prevents individual citizens with negotiating, in effect, with a foreign government. And this relates to back in December, before President Trump was inaugurated. Was he having conversations with Russian officials where he was effectively making promises on behalf of the government, et cetera? That, too, could be a violation of the law. But remember, we're talking about violations that require a prosecution. It requires, in almost all these cases, where the Attorney General would have to decide, we're going to prosecute. That's why it's so dangerous for him that Republican lawmakers are making these statements.
Dan Abrams, thanks very much. Michael?
All right, thank you, George. And now to that flooding in North Carolina and a new storm that's bringing severe weather to the middle of the country, and Ginger Z is tracking it all. Welcome back, Ginger.
Thank you, Michael. And the wettest April day on record for Raleigh. That's what made you look at pictures like this. The aerials are amazing to see, unfortunate to see as well. And we're also seeing numbers up to 10 inches of rain that fell over a couple of days, not just there, but in parts of Virginia where that road is crushed. Now, let me take you straight over to what's happening at this hour. Dallas area getting hit hard with severe thunderstorms. Oklahoma overnight with the big hail coming through. And today, that risk area really stretches from St. Louis back through Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, Shreveport, southern Arkansas, all in the area that could see severe weather, including tornadoes damaging wind and hail. Michael.
All right, thank you, Ginger. And Amy is joining us at the desk with the morning's other top stories, starting with a fire spreading in the southwest. Amy, good morning.
That's right. Good morning, everyone. And there is new video this morning that shows that wildfire burning south of Tucson, Arizona, now spreading to 20,000 acres in the Coronado National Forest. About 100 residents have been evacuated. Heavy wind and dry conditions are fueling those flames. Well, Ivanka Trump is brushing off criticism she received during her first foreign trip as a White House advisor. Some people in the audience at a women's forum in Germany booed and hissed when she discussed how her father has helped empower women. She later said, quote, "Politics is politics. People hold different perspectives," and she said she is listening and learning. Well, a new message from Pope Francis this morning during an unannounced TED Talk for the TED Media Organization. The Pope urged politicians to stay humble, or he warned power will ruin them. The Pope said we can only build the future if we stand together. Well, a major freeway in Los Angeles back open now after a fiery crash involving this tractor trailer right there and several other vehicles. One person was killed, 10 others injured. That truck crossing the center divider apparently caused the wreckage. It took nearly 8 hours to reopen those lanes. And a supreme distraction in the most unlikeliest of places. A cell phone started ringing during oral arguments at the Supreme Court on Tuesday. And who was to blame, you ask? Well, Justice Stephen Breyer himself. A reporter says Breyer was red-faced as he tried quickly to shut it off. He apparently brought his phone to court by accident. Several questions remain, however. What his ringtone was, we're not sure yet.
You said it was weird.
Yeah, it was not the normal one. We know that much, so we're on the case. And who was calling? I know who's calling me when I'm on the show. My kids. They don't even know that I'm on television. I'm like, guys, I'm in the middle of something.
They may know, they don't care.
Yeah.
That's true. Call middle of the show or middle of court make the blood pressure rise. I'll tell you that. And we have something right here. Major League Baseball's newest odd couple. There are reports that retired Yankees captain Derek Jeter and former Florida Governor Jeb Bush are teaming up to buy the Miami Marlins. And Jesse Palmer is here this morning with all the details. What's going on, Jesse?
Good morning, Michael. And yeah, it seems like an unlikely pair, but Jeter and Jeb do have at least one thing in common, a love of baseball. And some might remember George W. Bush. He was a part owner of the Texas Rangers, but Derek Jeter, who retired after 20 phenomenal seasons with the Yankees, has long talked about owning a team. Derek Jeter, the superstar shortstop known for putting his body on the line.
Going to be a tough play. Jeter on the run, makes the play.
To make clutch plays throughout his Hall of Fame career with the Yankees.
History with an exclamation point.
Is teaming up with Jeb Bush, the former one-time presidential candidate that Donald Trump famously called low energy on the campaign trail.
Please clap.
Baseball's new odd couple is reportedly part of a group joining forces to buy the Miami Marlins for a staggering $1.3 billion, according to the Miami Herald. It may seem unlikely, but the now retired Jeter has long spoke about owning a team one day.
Ultimate goal is to be an owner. I would love to call the shots. I think I've learned a lot in my career.
And Bush's family does have history with baseball as lengthy as their history with politics. Jeb's brother George was part owner of the Texas Rangers in the 1990s before starting his political career, and their father, George H.W. Bush, played baseball for Yale in the 1940s. The details of the deal are still being hammered out, but reports are that Bush would be the lead partner, and picking Jeter as his running mate is seen as a smart move.
His baseball mind is as good as what he's done on the field. Then if it translates on the field, then people will come to the ballpark.
Now, the president of the Miami Marlins has yet to comment on this bid, and Major League Commissioner Rob Manfred has said the league hasn't yet accepted any bid just yet, but still, there doesn't seem to be any major obstacles here for Jeb and Jeter.
Still not a done deal, though.
Not a done deal yet.
No contract.
All right, Jess, thanks so much. Not exactly baseball weather here in the Northeast, Ginger.
I was just going to say that the Mets play tonight, and if you're going to that game, you're thinking, oh no, because you're looking out the window and you're seeing this in Asbury Park, New Jersey, for example. It's breezy, it's really foggy and ugly, rainy. Well, guess what? The low's going to pull out, and we're going to dry out, especially tomorrow. Let's get to that stormy city now, brought to you by IHOP.
These two really like IHOP's refreshing new blackberry cheesecake pancakes with delicious real cheesecake cream and plump blackberries. And strawberry and cream pancakes, layered with vanilla cream and glazed strawberries. And these two really wish they were at a different table. IHOP, eat up every moment. And for a limited time at IHOP, kids eat free.
Yes, today is going to be much better than yesterday. Yesterday's high was only 61, and we had rain throughout the day. Today, we've got late day clearing at least, but morning fog and drizzle, we're going to have to deal with that, and it could slow you down for a short period of time prior to 10 a.m. But late day clearing, the high again into the low and mid 70s across the area. Tomorrow, 85 for a temperature. Gorgeous day coming our way, and not too bad Friday. Notice the change for the weekend, still 90 Saturday,